Snipers, you have to see what's happening with Bitcoin price right now, because in yesterday's video, we talked about Bitcoin holding 28,000 US dollars being the most important support level, showing confluence with the monthly open, the weekly open, and the previous weekly open. But today we're going to dive into a more macro perspective, because the question is, what is Bitcoin's immediate destination in the immediate short term? Well, we talked about 35,000 US dollars being the first upside target if Bitcoin were to close daily candles above 24,300. And guess what, snipers? Not a surprise. Yesterday, we broke 30,000 US dollars for the first time this year. We have the most accurate cryptocurrency technical analysis on the internet, snipers. But let's dive straight to the charts, because there's a lot to talk about here. With Bitcoin still holding above the major support here at 28,000 US dollars, this is extremely important, snipers, because we have confluence with our monthly open, our previous weekly open, and our weekly open right now at 28,000 US dollars. And guess what? I do have some good news for each and every one of you guys. Notice here how if we were to pull up the monthly chart and move into the equity markets like the S&P 500, we had an extremely bullish monthly candle close for the month of March, and we've yet to see the continuation of this upside move, indicating that the S&P 500 certainly potentially has further upside left. And of course, Bitcoin also has an extremely bullish monthly candle, just like the S&P 500, because Bitcoin has so far been outperforming the S&P 500 over the last few weeks. And more importantly, it is showing a lot of correlation to the S&P 500. If we were to pull up the weekly chart, notice how Bitcoin is just below this 100-week moving average, sitting right around that $34,000 level, justifying the potential price target of 35,000 US dollars, because these moving averages will act like magnets. And we are so close to this level, there's no resistance along the way. So the likelihood that Bitcoin still has some potential fuel to the upside is highly likely, especially if we're above the major support at 28,000 US dollars. Notice how the S&P 500 also inching towards this 100-week moving average, showing confluence right around that $4,200 level for the E-mini futures contract for the S&P 500. That's showing confluence with what Bitcoin is currently doing here, heading towards this 100-week moving average. So very important time here ahead of us, snipers. And check this out, snipers. Bitcoin dominance inching towards 50% dominance. Why is this important? This is the most amount of Bitcoin dominance that we've seen this year, and it's been a very long time. As a matter of fact, since this bull market pretty much peaked, we haven't seen Bitcoin dominance get above 50% dominance, but now we're heading towards this extremely important level. We're trying to break above 49% dominance. And what's most important here is whether or not Bitcoin can head towards this 200-week moving average when it comes to dominance, because guess what? If Bitcoin heads towards the 200-week moving average in terms of Bitcoin dominance, the likelihood that we've already found a bottom becomes increasingly high, because back in 2019, when Bitcoin dominance headed towards that 200-week moving average, the bottom was already behind us. November 2018 was the bottom for Bitcoin during that bear market. And then by the early start of 2019, we saw Bitcoin dominance head towards that 200-week moving average. And so that's when the market pretty much calms down, and we could assume that the overall cryptocurrency market has done most of its reallocations from altcoins to Bitcoin once that Bitcoin dominance gets towards that 200-week moving average. And so for us to make the case that Bitcoin has bottomed out this year between the $15,000 to $16,000 level, we need to see Bitcoin dominance head towards that 200-week moving average, sitting right around 54% dominance right now. This is an extremely important sentiment indicator, Bitcoin dominance. The second most important sentiment indicator is the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. If we dive into the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, what you'll see is the complete opposite. We're seeing a sell-off here for the Ethereum against Bitcoin valuation. Why is this important? Well, now that we've pretty much lost the 65,000 Satoshi level, heading towards 53,500 Satoshis, that tells us that we're starting to see weakness with the Satoshi valuations of altcoins. And if we want to assume that we're back in a bull market, what we'd preferably like to see is Bitcoin moving up, and alongside Bitcoin moving up, the Satoshi valuations for altcoins also moving up and showing strength with Bitcoin. And that gives us the assumption that we're seeing new capital come into this market versus just a reallocation of capital. Because right now, yes, Bitcoin is up over 80% year to date, but we're starting to see altcoin valuations and their Satoshi valuations get decimated, which is not what we want to see if we want to assume we're in a bull market. So is this just a bear market rally? That's the next question. Let's talk about that. If we go into Bitcoin's chart, Here's what I'd like to see, snipers. I'd like to see the fulfillment of this move to 35,000 US dollars. If we're able to hold between 30,000 and 35,000 US dollars, of course, that right there is going to give us a very strong case to say that we're not going to revisit these yearly lows below 16,000 US dollars, and that we could have potentially have found a bottom for Bitcoin. That doesn't mean we're not going to see any short-term downside. There could still be a test back down here towards the $21,000 level at some point this year. And of course, we all know we have a CME gap down here at 21,000 US dollars, but getting to 35,000 US dollars would be a huge show of strength for the bulls. And Bitcoin so far looks like it has all of the puzzle pieces to get there with the bullish monthly candle that closed for the equity markets, and then of course also translating into Bitcoin's monthly candle close of March. And so that's a very interesting place to monitor here for Bitcoin. Staying above 28,000 US dollars is more important than ever. And something that's also very interesting, snipers, is gold's valuation against Bitcoin. I want to take you guys back to the 2018 bull market. When we saw gold's valuation against Bitcoin bottom out, this was actually the top for Bitcoin. And guess what? Right now, we are finding support back at this exact level. And what does that tell us? Well, what does a support level do? It supports price. And so if we were to see a textbook support level here, we would assume that we would see gold strengthen against Bitcoin in the immediate short term. Now that we're at the support level, unless the support level breaks, then we potentially could see upside for gold against Bitcoin. And that wouldn't be a surprise, especially with gold heading towards price discovery right now. You can see gold above 2,000 US dollars as I record this video, per ounce over 2,000 US dollars, heading towards new all-time highs potentially here. This is the major resistance for gold before price discovery. And we all know what happens during price discovery. For those that don't know what price discovery is when an asset hits a price that it's never hit before in terms of all-time highs. And then at that point, you don't know what the top is. It can go to 2,500, gold can go to 2,700, potentially even towards 3,000 US dollars per ounce. This is all dependent upon gold entering price discovery. We're going to monitor gold's chart as we always monitor the 4-dimensional revolving parts on this channel. And by the way, snipers, if you like this video, remember to comment below and share this video to your friends and family. And let's quickly talk about some other revolving parts on the chart, snipers, before we wrap up this quick update. One thing I want to mention here is if we look at altcoins outside of Bitcoin, we're also seeing a lot of weakness. And these are altcoins actually not just outside of Bitcoin, but outside of Ethereum. You can see a major sell-off right now in altcoins. And that tells us that we're seeing a reallocation of assets right now to Bitcoin. And what does that mean? Well, typically we'll see altcoins move into Bitcoin in a bear market because we're expecting potentially further downside in the overall cryptocurrency market. And Bitcoin acts as a hedge against that downside because it has a larger market cap. It will see less downside. And that's why we call it the digital version of gold, right? What's gold meant to be? A storage of value. So Bitcoin acts as a storage of value for the cryptocurrency market. And so if this was truly a reversal in trend, a full-on reversal in sentiment back into a bull market, I would want to see the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart show strength with Bitcoin moving up, not show weakness. We're not seeing that yet. And so that's just something to note for the bearish case. Now, does this mean that we haven't bottomed out yet? No, not necessarily. We could have potentially have bottomed out at that $15,000 to $16,000 level if we see Bitcoin dominance head towards that 200-week moving average around 54% dominance. But right now, as I record this video, snipers, Bitcoin dominance is facing a major resistance at 49% dominance. We have not seen Bitcoin dominance get above that level from the start of this bull market ever since we topped out in 2021. And so that's an extremely important puzzle piece that we have to monitor here on the Snipers channel. And to wrap up this video, I want to mention the total market cap still showing strength right now above a major level here at $1.132 trillion. This is extremely positive because just like that door opened up for Bitcoin at 24,300, and we saw an immediate push to the upside, the door is now open for the total market cap to see continuation of the upside towards that $2 trillion level, as long as we're able to hold above this major support here at 1.132 trillion. So this is something to monitor. It's extremely important. It's actually sort of showing confluence with Bitcoin against SPY's valuation. You can see this abnormal move to the upside, breaking this bullish flag. So it looks like it's continuing its uptrend, just like Bitcoin's evaluation against the SPY. And that's not a surprise with all of the rumors going around with Balaji saying that Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million in 90 days. and hyperinflation is coming. There's going to be a de-dollarization. That's, of course, a very extremist point of view. And as I mentioned in the video yesterday, snipers, on this channel, we want to maintain a neutral perspective, a realist perspective, not anything that's too optimistic, not anything that's too pessimistic. We just want to look at the black and white. And technical analysis is only 10% of trading, right? Fundamental analysis is the other 10%. Then market psychology is the 80% of trading. And so right now, we're of course seeing stellar year-to-date performance for Bitcoin, but we have to be careful because Bitcoin is in the middle of a very large range with a support of 24,300, a resistance of 35,000, and an immediate short-term support level of 28,000. That's the confirmation support level. So 28,000, if we're holding above that, the longer we hold above 28,000, the higher the likelihood is that Bitcoin is ready for 35,000 US dollars to test that 100-week moving average, to potentially get above that 100-week moving average. And now if we're above all of the extremely important weekly moving averages like the 50 period, the 100 period, and the 200 period, now we can start to make the case that we're potentially back in a bull market, which is why I want to see Bitcoin get to 35,000 and hold above that 100-week moving average for us to make that bull case that, okay, now we have to start really looking at Bitcoin to potentially see new all-time highs, coming towards the 2024 halving. And so we've yet to get that confirmation. We're right on the cusp of it. But of course, for those tuned into the Snipers channel, you guys will get that confirmation as always. And I'll wrap up with this, snipers. If we look at what's happening in the DXY, right? The de-dollarization, the hyperinflation, we've yet to see further weakness for the DXY since the Silicon Valley banking crisis. We've only formed a higher low so far. And as a matter of fact, we could assume the US dollar is actually still showing strength right now because guess what? If we all remember, this flock to the US dollar back in 2020, we formed this initial high right around 102.85. And now that exact high is actually acting as a support level for the US dollar. So you can even say that the US dollar is stronger than it was back here in 2019 and 2020, as we have already seen a very strong uptrend for the US dollar. Of course, over the last 6 to 8 months, we've seen immense amounts of downside for the US dollar, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see another relief rally to the upside to form a lower high or a higher high, whatever it might be. And so we have to be very careful here because once again, the dollar looks like it could potentially see another push to the upside. We haven't formed new further lows, and we know across the board, the sentiment is telling us that altcoins are still showing fear that there's going to be potential downside in the markets with Ethereum selling off against Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance heading towards a resistance level, the gold to Bitcoin chart. You can see heading towards the support level where usually we bounce here and we start to see gold outperform Bitcoin. That could happen in two ways, by the way. We could see gold against Bitcoin outperform because Bitcoin is actually selling off while gold isn't. So gold doesn't necessarily have to just get into price discovery for gold's valuation against Bitcoin to move up. We could just see Bitcoin sell off and gold maintain its price levels for that to happen. And so there's other ways that this could happen, but that's extremely important to monitor, snipers. And with that being said, as always, the traditional wrap up here on the Snipers channel, Bitcoin is inside of a major snipers range here with a support of 24,300. We've yet to see institutional sell pressure on the 6-hour chart. If we look at Bitcoin against US dollar, you can see we're only seeing a descending amount of volume. We haven't seen institutional side sell pressure yet at these levels, meaning that there still could be another push to the upside. So we still want to keep that on the table, keep that potential move to the upside on the table for Bitcoin, and realize that in order for us to see further upside, we have to hold above 28,000 US dollars. And then of course, if we start to see institutional sell pressure, that's when we can start assuming that this rally is over, but we've yet to see that yet. Bitcoin inside of the range once again with a sniper support of 24,300, a sniper's resistance of 35,000. From where current price action is at 30,000, that's about 20% move to the upside towards the next major resistance. And then when it comes to downside, we're looking about 20% downside, right? We're at the midpoint of the range, not a surprise for those on the Sniper channel. But yes, this is a large range. And then our immediate short-term support level is 28,000 US dollars. We want to hold above 28,000 US dollars where we have confluence with the monthly open, the weekly open, the previous weekly open in order for us to strengthen the thesis that Bitcoin is ready for 35,000 US dollars. And with that being said, snipers, thank you all for tuning into the channel today. If you like this video, remember to comment below and share this video with your family and friends. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Snipers out.